Hey guys, I'm Jax, and I just saw Captain America 4 Brave New World. But, unfortunately, the only thing brave about this film is that they released it. So there's been a bunch of rumors about this film, and about reshoots, and more reshoots, and the rumors about the negative test screenings that kept happening again, and again, and again, have not made me overly keen to see this film. So for the last couple of months, not excited, not interested, kind of just feeling a bit meh on the MCU in general. But I didn't think that was fair to Anthony Mackie or Falcon / New Captain America, because I do like him. I really like the Cap films. So I thought the best way to get primed and ready for this film would be to go back and watch Cap 1, Cap 2, Cap 3. I even watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then just because I could, I rewatched Cap 2 again. So let me tell you, a man has never been more ready, more primed, more hyped to enjoy this film. I hate to be negative, but I've got to be honest. The rumors that were saying this was terrible were being generous. Now, just to be clear, I am no madman. I didn't expect this to be as good as any of the Cap films, but I did expect to have a bit of a fun, light, breezy time watching a fun action blockbuster film. Which is not what we got. This film is just a whole lot of nothing. The worst thing an MCU film can do, or really any film for that matter, is bore you. And oh boy, is this film boring. This is the most watch it at home, streaming in a couple of months when it comes on Disney Plus, while you watch TikTok videos on your phone, film that I've ever seen. And honestly, that's probably the nicest compliment I'm gonna give for this entire review. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to say this felt like 2 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier smashed together and just put on the big screen. I think that is offensive to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I rewatched recently and thought was a bit of fun. Sure, there's a bunch of issues, but a lot of the things it does right were completely lacking in this film. And I feel like a lot of the things that show did should have at least carried over in some way into this film, rather than feeling like the superior film that I wish this was. This should have been a great sequel follow-up to that TV series, rather than a film that I just kept being like, I can't believe I wish I was at home rewatching for the 3rd time Falcon and the Winter Soldier. How can this be my life? It's not even that good. Although in comparison, in hindsight now, maybe the best thing ever made. I think the more accurate comparison is that this feels like one of those Saturday morning cartoon TV series based off of a movie. Although, to be fair, that also feels offensive to Saturday morning cartoons. How have we come to this? How did Marvel let this happen? I opened with it, but I genuinely am curious. I can't believe that they released this. And I understand there was a million reshoots and they were trying not to release it and they were trying to fix it and change it and do stuff. And you kept hearing that. And I'm like, but it can't be that bad. But it is somehow worse than that. Every single element that makes an MCU film. Let's not even talk about the MCU. Let's just bring it right down to Captain America's 3 films. Every single aspect that made those 3 Captain America movies work and excel and be so exceptional are entirely lost here. They're either just not present at all, or they feel like such ugly, pale imitations that are trying to do these things. It's trying to elicit heart out of nowhere for characters you don't care about. It's trying to have that fun, bantery kind of humor with its sidekicks and its main characters as they're punching people and throwing the shield about and doing funny asides, but it all falls so painfully flat. The humor is aggressively unfunny. And I know the MCU's humor is very hit or miss for a lot of people. But just personally, I love the MCU humor. I usually find it either absolutely hilarious or mildly pretty damn funny. I never, ever find it aggressively unfunny and like a turn-off where I'm just like, oh, I want to stop watching. Whereas within 5 to 10 minutes of this movie, the banter and the quips and the jokes are just falling so flat. Honestly, it reminded me of watching Frosted by Jerry Seinfeld, where I was like, isn't he a funny comedian? Why is this not funny? What happened? That's what I felt like. I'm like, but this is the MCU. It's always a bit of a laugh. Like, they're never the cleverest or most insightful or, inspired jokes, but they're a bit of fun. They're never so bad. Never just ugly and like painfully unfunny. Like, my body was like recoiling at the jokes. Like, it just, I didn't like it. So I'll circle back to the humor once I start talking about all the side characters, because they are all deeply unfunny. But let's get to the biggest and most important part of this film that doesn't work. And that is the plot. So this film is a mystery thriller film about a brainwash killer and a corrupt government. Think home brand Winter Soldier, but somehow just like a lot worse than that sounds. Because I feel like if you said to me, I don't know, this film's kind of like The Winter Soldier. Not as good, but still like The Winter Soldier. I would be like, oh, like the best MCU film? That sounds pretty damn good. Even if it's half as good as that, that's good enough. I'm not saying it's like half as good as The Winter Soldier. I'm not talking about being on a budget and being like, I don't want Cocoa Pops today. I can do with Kokomo Puffs or whatever. And you're like, actually, you know what? This is totally fine. This is totally fine. Probably not as good, but I've actually been eating Kokomo Puffs for so long that actually I can't even tell the difference. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the home brand under Kokomo Puffs, where it's just like a giant bowl of poo. And Kevin Feige is just like, don't you like this delicious poo I made you? And you're like, I mean, it's still brown like Cocoa Pops. So like it is similar in like one very specific way that I don't want it. Like that's not exactly what I like about Cocoa Pops. The thing that I like about Cocoa Pops isn't that they're brown. It is the chocolatey flavor. So this poo being brown, yes, in some ways it is similar, but it isn't, it's not what I wanted for breakfast today. The mystery part of this thriller movie has 3 separate mystery elements, which are all equally comically obvious and stupid and boring, so that for the entire film, we are not 1, not 2, but 5 steps ahead of Captain America trying to solve this mystery for the entire film. Which makes Cap look dumb, which isn't great for our hero. It makes the mystery feel anything but, well, mysterious, which isn't ideal. But worst of all, it doesn't make you as the audience feel like some kind of competent detective, getting all these puzzle pieces and putting it together and making the jigsaw before the heroes do in the movie. And so you feel like you're Batman, and I'm like, oh, I'm a detective solving stuff. I'm some kind of Sherlock up in this biz. No, because that would involve the scriptwriting being anything close to competent. The film tells you immediately what has happened, why it's happened, who's doing it, and what their next plot point is, and like their next like goal is. Like the film holds your hand along every single point in this film that just becomes so wildly just simple and basic that it becomes infuriating, and then it just becomes boring because Cap spends half the movie just kind of wandering about being like, what's going on? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? We saw the scene. We saw how they acted. We saw why this thing happened. We saw the music. We heard this. We did that. There are so many moments that are just like, it's so obviously this, for this reason. What are you doing, Cap? And then halfway through the movie, he's walking through a room and he's all like, maybe I've potentially solved it. And you're like, okay, like maybe if I've been on my phone, I haven't been paying attention. What's going on? And then luckily, Cap goes, huzzah! This is what's been going on. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I know because I'm in the cinema watching the movie and I saw what happened 50 minutes ago. But I suppose if I'm at home watching on streaming and I'm on my phone and maybe I'm eating pizza and maybe there's a second TV with the cricket on, I like missed the 50 minutes of knowing what's happening and what's been going on. This happens maybe 4 times, at least 3. Honestly, I forgot because so much of this film just washes over you. Like, I had trouble when I was trying to write notes of what didn't work, just remembering the movie. I saw it like 2 hours ago. It feels like the film thinks it's this really smart, dense, and intense mystery thriller, and it's like afraid that you're not keeping up and you don't understand what's going on, so it's trying to hold your hand throughout all of it, and it's just infuriating because it makes the characters look dumb. It makes it feel like they think you're dumb, but maybe you're just on your phone. That's what it really feels like, and it's just super frustrating. Now, I do have a caveat for some of the twists and turns and reveals and revelations that I found to be incredibly infuriating because I'm like, I know. If you have somehow avoided every trailer, every poster, every interview, if somehow you are watching this video in which in the thumbnail, I'll have the poster on the thumbnail that will ruin the reveal. If somehow you clicked on this video but didn't see that, there is going to be a twist in the third act where you're going to be like, wow, that's crazy. But that person doesn't exist. You don't exist. Maybe your mum is going to watch this film on streaming, but I imagine the promotional image on streaming will also be that same spoiler image that the film spends like an hour hyping. And I maybe that's exciting if you don't know what's coming, but for a lot of it, it's kind of like, yeah, let's get to it. Maybe that'll be the one good scene in the movie. Spoilers, it's not. Also, second caveat to twists, turns, reveals, and revelations, there is a moment halfway through the film where this kind of mysterious like character that's potentially been behind it all is like revealed, and it's played like this big reveal moment. But once again, I feel like you're in either two camps. I guess the third camp is your mum who's just watching on streaming, but she'll have no emotional reaction whatsoever. But I feel like there's two, like if you're going to see this in the cinema, there's two types of people. One, like me, where you're mildly too invested in the MCU, despite some of them being kind of terrible now, and you kind of don't care anymore, but you still just kind of love the MCU. So you're aware of like casting and like rumors and just all that type of stuff, all that movie chatter that we love to think about and talk about before a movie comes out. So like there's a moment, and it is spoiled 45 seconds of the movie. I don't know why they did that. But like there's a character that might potentially rock up and you'll be like, yeah, no, I know. They like announced that 4 years ago. Or you'll be like my brother, who I saw this film with, who doesn't know any of that stuff, doesn't care about any of that stuff, and they'll rock up, this potentially mysterious character, and they just won't have any emotional reaction to that because they don't know who that is. And then I'll tell them and they'll be like, oh, I don't care. Why would I care about that? Who? What? And so it's just like, you're not pleasing anyone because I already know, so it's not a reveal, or you don't care, so it's also not a reveal. And I do think double, triple caveats onto the caveat or whatever. Caveat sandwich? No, it's nothing. There, potentially, some people might just enjoy this moment. Either way, I think it's a bad reveal, no matter which camp you're on, made only worse by the execution of everything that follows that reveal, which I'll get to in spoilers. Soon, hopefully very soon. It's so late. The action in this film is bad. The action is at best noise and movement, at worst ugly, half-finished CGI mess that is completely derivative of everything we've seen with Cap's shield, but also Falcon's wings, and surprisingly, something from Black Panther. It's just a horrible mishmash compilation of everything you've seen before, done worse, with worse effects. I don't mean to be that guy, and honestly, I'm often not that guy. I feel like sometimes people are very harsh on the MCU getting worse and worse with its visuals. This time, they're right. Or I'm right. The visuals are bad. The visuals are just ugly and disgusting. Like there's a giant flying sequence action thing with the Falcon. He's like, he's got wings, he's flying about with the big celestial thingy poking out of the ocean. And it's just like, I was really excited for that action set piece. You saw a little bit in the trailer. It's like, wow, that's a really cool place to have someone flying about. This is the perfect combination. But he could just be flying anywhere. It's just like they don't do anything with the fact it's like on this celestial kind of mountaintop thingy that's poking out of the ocean like some kind of horrific kind of, I don't know, iceberg that's some kind of like Lovecraftian style thingy. Like it's just grey nothingness, and he could be flying anywhere. And I just thought it was ugly and disgusting and horrible. And I guess I won't spoil the third act thing, even though my thumbnail spoiled it. But that you think might be good, it's not. There might be one or two shots where I'm like, that doesn't look half bad. And then every other shot, I'm like, kind of looks half bad. What's going on here? That's why. Wasn't this delayed like a year? Why are the animators still getting crunched and not getting time to make it look serviceable? I just never thought that I would say the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series would have better action. Because the action in that is fine. Speaking of Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series, a thing that is now incredibly fantastic and it's just so much better. Now I've seen the movie, like in comparison, I'm like now retroactively going, that was actually kind of awesome. And one thing that TV series did that the movie didn't do that honestly I simply cannot believe, and even as I'm going to say it out loud to you, I still don't believe that, I can't believe they didn't do this, and that is give Captain America, our main character, he's not the main character, but the titular character, I suppose, a plot. or any agency, or an arc, a character arc. The basic film 101 thing you need to give like a character. And I know Captain America in the other films doesn't necessarily have a change of character, but he is in different environments, and those environments change because he stays so steadfast. That's not what I'm talking about here. They're not doing that again. He's just kind of there in Thaddeus Ross's movie. I don't know why they did this. It's just Incredible Hulk 2 without the Incredible Hulk in it. It's a weird decision. This film makes me realize that maybe they shouldn't have blown their load on a really fantastic Cap 4 film idea, in that you've got Captain America's old best friend, his new best friend, and some new Captain America that the government has like given the title to, all fighting emotionally and physically for Cap's shield, but also fighting for Cap's legacy. What does it mean to be a second Captain America? Should there be a second Captain America? Like, there's so much juicy, awesome stuff to play with those dynamics of those three characters. But we did that in a TV series that I did not respect and give it like the due that it deserves. And I rewatched it and I was like, actually, it's doing some pretty good stuff. Can't wait for it to be followed up in the sequel. Oh no, because I guess this is Cap 2 again now. Because Cap 1 was the Falcon show. So Cap 2 again, they're going to just do that classic Hollywood thing of just remaking that film from ages ago that we love, but worse in every single way. And that's what this film is. It's like, what if the Winter Soldier, but worse in every way? So Anthony Mackie as Falcon is amazing. I've always loved him as Captain America's sidekick. And I didn't hate the idea of him becoming Captain America, but I think this film creates a really weird, frustrating kind of situation where, as Captain America's sidekick in the original Cap films, he's fantastic and he's fun and he's likable and there's a great dynamic between them. There's really fun banter. The action scenes are really cool. It's really fun to have Cap on the ground with the shield and all the main stuff going on, but he's flying about doing Falcon stuff, and that's a really fun dynamic. And from the get-go, the first scene is that iconic on your left scene that has so much heart and humor, and you love him straight away. In this film, where Falcon is now Captain America, he gets his own Falcon, who is insufferable. I hated him. Every single time he spoke was like an attempt to do that classic MCU banter. And as I said, the MCU banter and the humor is hit and miss for a lot of people. For me, I love it. I hate him. I want him to die. And I feel so bad how much I hate him. He's just so uncharismatic and uncharming. And it creates this really kind of frustrating element to the film where every single time there's meant to be like a joke and a funny haha bits, it's just kind of like, oh, it's so uncharismatically kind of try-hardy. And it's kind of like, oh, I feel like this is what a lot of people who hate the MCU humor think it is every time. Or feel like, or, you know, you feel however you want, but like, that's how they feel every time. Where it's just like every single joke, you're like, stop. I'm actively like want to stop watching the movie now. Stop making those jokes. And I've never experienced that in any of the MCU films before. And it was overwhelming. Because like the first 5 minutes, he's got the shield, he's doing some stuff, and I'm like, I like the shield. I like that it bounces about, and it doesn't make any sense. As Spider-Man said in Civil War, that doesn't obey the laws of physics at all. And I love that. And the movie opens with the shield bouncing about and doing some stuff, and it's fun. And then the sidekick's like, ho ho ho, jokey joke. And I'm like, oh my god, what happened to the movie? I want to leave. Like, just off a cliff, and it never climbs back out of that cliff. It's like you were the Falcon, and you're flying off a cliff, but you realize you don't have wings, and you're just a man falling off a cliff, and then you hit the bottom and you die. But instead of dying, I got home, and I'm doing this review at 1 a.m., and it's still about 30 degrees, which is, yeah. It is so hot, and I know the review's gone for far too long, but I simply cannot, I have to put in time here to just say it's very hot. It's very hot, and so if sometimes something I said doesn't make sense, and you go, you probably should have just filmed that again. There was simply no time, because it's too hot, and I just want to die. Another character who I didn't think would suffer from the horrible humor is Isaiah Bradley. He comes back from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and in that, even though I feel like some of the ideas they discussed were a little half-baked, in hindsight, they discussed anything, so that's fun, and actually maybe the best thing ever made. Isaiah Bradley in that was so deadly serious and intense. And in this, he's like talking to the other new Falcon character, and Falcon, he's like, "You're old. You probably don't know what an airdrop is. I gotta get you this photo, but you don't know what airdrop is." And he's like, "I do know what airdrop is." And then the human, like the timing is it's all off, and he just looks straight to like Captain America. He's like, "I don't know what airdrop is. I'm old." And it's like, what the fuck, movie? I'm sorry. I've now realized it's so hot. I wish I could wear no shirt and do this review, but nobody wants that. Does anybody want that? Also, because this is budget Winter Soldier, there is a new Black Widow character who is maybe the most forgettable character ever. Honestly, if I hadn't written notes, I would have forgotten to talk about her. I have nothing to say about her. The only thing I have to say is that I feel like I've taken for granted the casting of the MCU. Like, Florence Pugh is so good as the new Black Widow. She's going to be in Thunderbolts. I loved her in Hawkeye. I loved her in Hawkeye. She's really great casting all around. Like, this is the first film where I'm like, the casting is off. But it makes me feel like I haven't appreciated the casting that's been so on point for, what is it, 35 films or whatever it is? Like a crazy amount of films where they've nailed it. They've nailed it every single time. Even Thor 4, the casting is good. Like Russell Crowe as Zeus, that's awesome. Like that's a terrible movie, but the casting's still on point. This is the first film where I'm like, new Falcon, hate him. I know that was the show, but I hate him. And this chick, new Black Widow, atrocious, just so bad. So I apologize to the casting directors of the MCU. I have been taking you for granted. And that will never happen again. I promise. I mean, what are my promises worth? Absolutely nothing. Alright, so Cap isn't the main character of this movie. It's Thaddeus Ross, who was originally he was like the second villain of the MCU. He was like, don't do a big Hulk. I'll do a big Hulk on your big Hulk, or whatever happened in that movie. And he's been popping up throughout all the films, but that actor passed away, tragically, so that's sad. And so now we get Han Solo. And so Han Solo's like, oh, I'm Thaddeus Ross, and I'm president. And I'm the main character of this movie for some reason. I don't understand. Like, I get you can't make an Incredible Hulk movie because of the rights with Universal. I understand. Maybe they just can't fix that problem. I feel like in a better movie, I'd be like, I love that we're not getting Incredible Hulk 2, but Incredible Hulk 2 is also Captain America 4. But I hated the movie, so I don't like that. I also think, and this is very personal, and it's unfair because the actor died. So what are you going to do? It is kind of weird to have this character, Thaddeus Ross, be in so many movies, and this is kind of like his like finale. Like this is his endgame in a way, where he's the main character. He does a big Red Hulk. Spoilers. I've spoiled it in the thumbnail. You know. And he does a big Red Hulk. But it's not that actor. It's just some guy. But worse, it's not some guy who can kind of like chameleon his way into the role, where you're kind of like, oh yeah, this new guy's kind of doing a Thaddeus Ross. It's just like, oh, it's Han Solo. Oh, Han Solo is now Red Hulk. Or maybe Indiana Jones. If you're not a Star Wars guy, Indiana Jones is now Red Hulk. And the whole movie's about him being like, I've got to have redemption because my daughter doesn't love me. And I'm like, you kind of suck though, dude. So I don't really like give a fuck about like if your daughter loves you or not. And she hasn't been in a movie for like 25 years. Like I was in high school. I think I was in year 8 when that movie came out. I'm so old now. Which leads me to my final and biggest point and biggest issue, the big bad of the film. The big bad of the film is a big, big secret. And so quickly, non-spoiler free stuff, it is the worst villain in the MCU. I hated it. I hated the reveal. But most importantly, the villain has powers. It's a villain. It's a super villain. It has like a thing. It has a gimmick. And the execution and delivery of this gimmick is something that we've seen before in many films and TV shows and just lots of pop culture stuff. And in this, it's the worst version of that I've ever seen in any film ever. To the point where it's laughably bad. And some of the lines that this big bad delivers is some of the worst, cringy, disgusting stuff I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm not being hyperbolic or anything like that. Genuinely, I was like, I'm not vibing this. And by the end, I was like, that's probably the worst thing I've ever seen. So yeah, don't go see the movie. It sucks. Go watch it on streaming when you're watching TikTok videos of dogs on your phone in 3 months when it comes out. But this is going to bomb because it's atrocious, so it'll probably come out in like 3 weeks. Yeah, fuck, it sucks so much. All right, fun segue into spoilers. Spoilers. It's the leader. The leader is the big bad. Yeah, that's not a spoiler. You heard about the casting 4 years ago. So the main thing I want to talk about with the leader is the execution and the delivery and the defining of his powers. He's a big brainy guy. He's got big brain. He's all like, I'm so smart. Smart characters and genius characters are characters we've seen so many times in so many like different types of media outside of superheroes, inside of superhero media. They're everywhere all the time. Well, think of Sherlock. Or Sherlock. Well, Sherlock. We get smart guys all the time, and often they are so smart it's ridiculous and absurd and silly, but hey, this is a big, silly, stupid movie about a big red Hulk and a flying Birdman who's got a shield that can magically do whatever. Like, this smart guy can be stupid smart in ridiculous ways, but it doesn't come across like that. In the movie, there are just such bafflingly boring, simple, stupid things that don't feel smart at all. Like at one point, Gus Fring, that's right, Gus Fring's in this movie. That feels like a Hail Mary casting to be like, Gus Fring's in this, you like Breaking Bad, right? We did, but that doesn't mean we like him in just any schlock. And at one point, Gus Fring is like, blows up a car and he's like, I killed Captain America, ha ha ha. I'm like, you fucking idiot, no you didn't. And he turns around, and he turns back, Cap's there, and he's like, oh my god, my boss, and you don't know it's the leader at this point. He's like, but they're trying to make him very smart. And he's like, my boss said that if I exploded this car and then you survive, there'd be a 70% chance you'd try and talk me down. And Captain America was tried to talk him down straight away. And he's like, that's crazy. That man's a genius. What? That's his smart thing? He just says like, Captain America, I reckon he's going to talk you down. I don't know. I'm going to give it like a 70% chance. That doesn't seem so very fucking smart to me. That's like something I could come up with. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I'm an actual idiot who's dumb. And I feel like I could just come up with those numbers. It's just like random percentages he puts onto things. So the whole film is essentially the leader creating this elaborate plan. And by elaborate, I do mean stupid, simple, and dumb plan to essentially make Thaddeus Ross / Han Solo into Red Hulk. And he's like, you're going to become Red Hulk and your legacy is going to be ruined because you've been torturing me since the second MCU film till now. Which is actually fucking ages. So he's sad about that. And he's like, I'm going to make him turn into the Red Hulk. But I'm super smart and brainy and like I can't be stopped. And like I'm so smart I've thought about every possible outcome. And all the percentages. He keeps talking about percentages. He's like, there's an 80% chance this will happen. There's a 100% chance this... Like at one point, he says there's a 100% chance this will happen. And then like they just stop it. And there's a bit where he screams. He's like, rah, I'm wrong. And I'm like... Because he's a stupid, stupid man. I don't know. I've never been so baffled by how just simple and dumb like a smart genius character was. And honestly, I can only remember the Gus Fring one. I wish I was at home because I could take notes. But yeah, it's just every scene is like that. There's some just horrible stuff with him. There's the worst one for me is there's a moment where a character's like, who are you? As he's getting like tortured by him because he's got some mind control shit in his hand or whatever. And he's like, don't you know? I'm the hero. And it's like meant to be like a trick, a switcheroo on like you think he's going to say the leader and you're like, but he's like, he says he's the hero, which is funny because he's the villain. I think that's when I realized I hated him more than anything in this world. And at this point, it sounds petty, but I can't stress enough. It's so hot in here and I want to die. Second spoiler, Arwen's back. Penny or Jessie. Julia? I forgot her name. Doesn't matter. Hulk's girlfriend from the first movie, Arwen from Lord of the Rings. She rocks up, and at first she's on the phone. And like, they couldn't get her to like film something in a garage with a green screen. That's crazy. But then they do actually get her to film something in a garage with a green screen. And she's like, Han Solo, I'm your daughter, and I do love you. And he's like, thank God, even though I'm in prison because I did a big red Hulk. And they hug. Well, they don't hug, but they metaphorically hug. And I was like, wow, I don't fucking give a shit. Who cares? That movie was like 25 years ago. I don't care that Arwen's back. How many people have come in and out? Like, it just felt like such a thing where they're like, wow, this is what the people have been waiting for. The second movie. It's like, this movie spends so much time being like, that movie counts. And it's like, okay, cool. You don't want to bring Hulk back? Is that going to be weird because it was Edward Norton? Like, why isn't Mark Ruffalo in this? I don't know, man. I didn't like this. I actually felt like I had more spoilers to say, but it really is just that the leader sucks and it's the leader. That's not really anything though, is it? Well, I guess time for post-credits scene. It's also the leader. Again, the leader's like in prison and Anthony Mackie's Captain America rocks up and he's like, ha! He says something and I felt like it was a callback to something and I'm like, I must have zoned out. I don't know. Like checking my phone and be like, how fucking long is this going for? It's a long 2 hours. It's hurting me. And so the leader is all like, oh my god, I sense everything, my brain, the calculations, the probabilities, the percentage of potentially, in the future something's gonna happen. And then Captain America's like, what do you mean, the leader? Tell me! And then he's like, oh my god, all you heroes, you keep doing hero stuff, but maybe there'll be other heroes from something you couldn't possibly comprehend, some other worlds. You couldn't believe there could be other worlds. And it's like, what the fuck, bitch? We're like 8 movies into the multiverse. We've been doing this for like 5 years. We all know that there's a multiverse. Saying in a post-credit scene, there's other worlds you couldn't possibly comprehend. It's just like, it's so tone deaf and it's so nothing. It's like, this might be the worst one, but it also might just be how disappointed I was for the whole film. And the Hulk fight at the end was just him being like, I'm a Hulk, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, think of your daughter, Hulk man. And he's like, oh, I did think of my daughter. And then he's just not the Hulk. Like, actually, I remembered another thing. The thing about the dialogue in this film is throughout the film, Thaddeus Ross, Han Solo, Red Hulk, he's always like, oh, my daughter doesn't love me and she'll never talk to me again. We used to go down the cherry blossom lane and walk down this cherry blossom lane. And that's the emotional thing about my daughter or whatever. And then somehow in the fight, the Hulk and the Falcon are flying about and they land and they're there in the chest, the cherry blossoms and like the flowers. And he's like, oh, it's going to remind him. Like it's stupid coincidental or whatever, but it's going to remind him. But then just in case we weren't paying attention, Captain America's immediately like, look, Red Hulk! Look, Red Hulk! The cherry blossoms! Remember your daughter! And then they fight for a bit, and then he holds a leaf up, or flower blossom, or whatever, and he's like, Red Hulk, remember your daughter! And he's like, you know what, I reckon I will remember my daughter. That's actually a good idea, Falcon. And then he just isn't the Red Hulk anymore. And it's like, what? Okay. Yeah, Saturday morning cartoon shit. Which is offensive to Saturday morning cartoons, obviously, because they're all fantastic. And this is a $150, $200 million movie that I paid for in a cinema and watched for 4 hours, but somehow only 2 hours passed. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I do. It was really long and boring and it sucked. Back to post-credits. Ending explained. Fucking what does he do? Then the leader is all like, oh my god, there's going to be some kind of secret wars. Maybe evil Captain America will rock up and you'll be like, that's someone I know, but this time he's evil. Wouldn't that be crazy? It's gonna be a crazy time. Maybe friends will be friends, but enemies will be enemies, and friends will be enemies, or whatever. And like he doesn't say that per se, but I can't remember what he said. All I remember was that like the subtext of the scene, and by subtext I mean he was saying it but being vague and stupid. He was like, we're doing Secret Wars. That's pretty crazy too. Secret Wars. So Cap's coming back. I mean, he already came back in Deadpool vs. Wolverine, but he's going to come back again as evil Captain America. He's Captain Hydra or whatever it's called. He's going to come back, and Anthony Mackie's Captain America, you're going to have to punch him in the face and be like, but you were my friend, and punch him. But the movie's going to bomb, so you might not actually be in it, and Chris Evans might just come back from another universe where he's good, and 2 Captain Americas will just punch each other and be like, you're me, but evil. I mean, I hope Anthony Mackie stays and he gets to fight evil Captain Hydra Man. But man, this movie's not going to do well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we never see him again. And I don't want that. But someone needs to be punished for this. It shouldn't be Anthony Mackie. But someone should be punished. Thanks for watching, guys. You didn't make it to the end. What am I talking about? And if you did, I apologize.